Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beaded Kumihimo bracelet, and it looks like this. So it had this kind of really nice elegant look to it because of the beads that we're using. Obviously you can choose whatever colour combination that you want and what kind of beads as well. So this is what it looks like. So we have these 4mm beads, kind of the main part of the braid, but then we have these little seed beads in between them, and what it actually does as well is the braid itself is a regular 8-strand braid, so a round braid, but what it does with these beads, the combination of them, actually makes the braid itself more triangle shape, if you look from the end there. So it has these 3 kind of flat sides to it, due to the beads that we're using. It also makes it really nice and comfortable to wear, and you get this really nice effect of the beads combined on the braid. So if you want to learn how to make this, then stay tuned. So here are the things that we're going to need. Now first of all, here I have a round Kumihimo disc because we are making a round braid. And then as for the cord here, I'm using a 0.4mm Eslon. I just got this kind of light grey cream colour, just to be a nice background for the beads. Obviously you can choose whatever colour you want of your cord to match whatever beads you're using. So it's just in case any of the cord is going to show through. And then as for the beads, I'm using some 4mm rounds here first of all. Specifically these ones are some silver stardust beads. They'll give a really nice effect. They have this nice surface on them. And then the other beads that I'm using are some 11-0 Miyuki seed beads. And these specific ones are galvanized blush colour. So it's just, I thought these 2 colours would go nicely together and give a nice elegant look. And then finally, we also need a Kumihimo ends here to finish off our piece. And then also, of course, whatever clasp and findings that you want to use. So I'm going to be using some jump rings, extended chain and a lobster claw clasp. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So then the cords that we'll need here is 4 lengths of our Eslon of about 1 meter each. And what we're going to be doing with these is I'm going to put all the ends together like this. And then about where the middle is up here, I'm going to put a regular overhand knot just to hold them together and also to symbolise the middle. And then also you can tie a piece of scrap wire or something or cord around this to help put down through the disc, or just add a Kumihimo weight. But we're going to then put this knot down through the disc, so all the cords are going to be doubled over and turn into 8 working lengths instead of the 4 cords here. So this is then how I've distributed the cords on the disc here. So it's a little hard to see because obviously it's a light cord on the white disc. But what I've done is I just put 1 length of cord on each side of every dot here, all the way around, and that's all because it's just an 8-strand braid here. So I'm not going to worry about the numbers, I'm only really using the dots there as reference points. And then to start off with, before I add in any beads to this braid, I just want to make a little section of braid just with a cord here, just to get it started and has something to be able to finish it off at the end. So what I'm going to do is take my top left one, so the one to the left side of the top dot, I'm going to bring that over the middle, down, stay on the left side of the disc but then down next to the bottom pair. Then I'm going to take the right one from the bottom pair, bring it up, stay on the right side of the top and place it right on the right side of that top cord that we have. So that's the first pair. Now turn your disc to the next pair, just a quarter here, do the exact same thing. Take the top left one, bring that down, stay on the left side of the bottom pair, and then take the bottom right one and bring that up and stay on the right side. So just next to the other cord. Turn it again. And then we basically keep doing the same thing. So always take the top left one, bring it down, then take the bottom right one and bring that up. And I'm just going to be doing this till I have about 1 to 2 centimeters of braid. So I now made my little section of braid here. You can see it's coming out of the back, and that's fine. So now what we need to do is start adding in our beads. So this is then how you want to set up all the beads here on all the lengths of cord. What I've also done is taken a picture of this setup here, and I've put that picture on my website. There'll be a link in the description box down below to that, so if you need to have a bit more of a closer look of this, you can have a look there. But what I'm then just going to do now as well is go through the setup on all the cords here in more detail, so we can then start making the braid as well. So what I'm just going to do is start with the top 2 cords here. Now the next one that I'm due to take is my top left one and bring that down to continue the braid once we've gone through this here. So for that one, I'm going to start with that, the top left one. You'll be able to see that I have the 4mm and then I have my 3 11/0s, then 4mm, 3 11/0s, and that pattern continues. You'll find that that pattern goes on all of the cards here, just in different ways. So for this one, I'm starting out with 1 4mm bead, and then I'm going to alternate between the 4mm and then the 11/0, 4mm, 3 11/0, and so on all the way till the end here. And on this one I finish on a 4mm as well. In this case I have 13 of the 4mm, and then I have 12 sections where I have the 3 11/0 in between those. And then on the other one here, the top right one, it's the same basic principle. You can see the exact same pattern. On this one, the difference is only that instead of starting with a 4mm like the other one, it starts with the 3 11/0 and then goes into the pattern of alternating between the 11/0, the 4mm, the 3 11/0, the 4mm, all the way till the end where it ends on the 3 11/0. And here's the same principle, because it starts with the 3 11/0. I have 13 of those, then alternating with the 4mm beads throughout, and there's 12 of those. So these two cards, they're the same pattern as you can see, but they start and finish with the opposite ones to each other. So basically what you could kind of say for this pattern and all the cards is the sections where we have 3 11/0, they're kind of equivalent to the 4mm, so they're just in place of having another 4mm there, we have the 3 11/0, because it's pretty much about the same spacing. So you can kind of imagine those 3 11/0 symbolize the one bead that would be there otherwise of the same size as a 4mm. And then as for the cards on the right side of the disc here, that's the exact same principle. The top one out of them is the same as the top left one up here. That starts with a 4mm. We go into the pattern all the way of alternating between the 4mm and then the 3 11/0, and then it finishes on a 4mm as well. So whatever bead it starts on that same card, it will finish on the same bead in this case, and we have the same amount, so there's 13 of the 4mm and then there's 12 of the sections with the 3 11/0. And then the bottom one on the side here, then that one starts with the 3 11/0, just like the right one up here. It's the exact same thing, it alternates throughout and ends on the 3 11/0 as well. We have the 13 of the 3 11/0 sections, and then we have the 12 of the 4mm beads. And then on the bottom two cards here on the disc, the right one on the bottom then starts with the 3 11/0, alternates throughout. We have 13 of that section with 3 11/0, and it finishes on that as well, on the 3 11/0 there. And then obviously separated out by the 4mm. The left one of the bottom one starts with the 4mm one, so they're always opposite each other, and that has 13 of those, and it finishes on that as well, and then separated out by 12 of the sections of the 3 11/0. And then the final two cards over here on the left side of the disc, the bottom one of those two starts with 3 11/0, and then 13 of those all the way to the end. It finishes on the 3 11/0 as well, alternating with the 4mm beads in between. Then the opposite one again starts with the opposite bead first, so that starts with a 4mm. We have 13 of those, and it finishes on that as well, again separated out with the 3 11/0 bead sections. So then, like I said, I'm going to start with the top left one as my next card that I move, because that's a natural way that I make the Kumihimo braid here. If you start with either the top left one, the same as me, or with the bottom right one, you want to set up the beads just like I've shown you here. But if you start with the top right one or the bottom left one, because it all depends what comes natural to you and how you learn it, then what you need to do is set up the beads just a little bit differently. And that is, imagine that you then have a mirror in front of your disc, and then what you need to do is add all the beads on in that mirror image. So basically what that means is the two cards up here, not the cards themselves, but the positioning of the beads, they need to swap place. Down here, the bottom ones, they need to swap place, the positioning of the beads again. The side ones, what they need to do is swap over the middle. So the top ones, the top right one and the top left one, need to swap with each other, the positioning of the beads again. And then also the bottom ones here need to swap with each other. Because what that will do is then accommodate for the fact you start with the other card, so the top right one or the bottom left one, rather than the top left one or the bottom right one, because the top left one that I'm going to start with and then the bottom right one, those are the same thing. And the same thing if you start with the top left one, sorry, the top right one there, or the bottom left one, they also are the same thing. So that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whether it's the one or the other side that you start with naturally. So setting the beads up either like this if you start the same as me, or the other way, like I said, the mirror image, if you start on the other side, that will accommodate for that. And also what I just want to mention is regarding what direction you turn the disc, that doesn't matter in this case because it's an 8-strand braid. So as you can see here, this is the next pair that we're going to. We then turn the disc in one direction, we go to that pair, but if we turn it in the other direction, we go to the same pair anyway. And because it doesn't matter whether we start with the top or the bottom ones, as long as it's one of the same ones there or the other ones, that doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter what direction you turn your disc in. So once you then have all your beads in place here according to the way that you work on your disc, then we need to start incorporating them into the braid. So then to continue making the braid here, while adding in the beads, all you want to do is continue the same way that we were doing the braid before. So like I said, I'm going to take my top left one, and then as I'm releasing the cord, I'm also going to release or drop down my very first bead. In this case, that happens to be the 4mm bead, so it's just a single bead there. As I'm releasing the cord, I let that bead drop all the way down into the middle of the disc, where the other cords are coming out from. What you want to then make sure to do is if the bead doesn't fall down kind of into the hole under the other cords by itself, you want to just make sure to tuck it in with your finger so it goes underneath the cord that we're crossing over here. Bring the cord down and then place it in the slot down there next to the other pair on the bottom, just like we've done previously with creating the braid just with a cord. Then in this case, we take the bottom right one. As I'm releasing the cord, I'm also going to drop down the first bead, but in this case these are the 3 11/0s, so it's not just one bead, but it's kind of these 3 11/0s that's kind of acting as one, equivalent to the 4mm. Going to drop them down, and right at the beginning here it can be a little bit fiddly because we have the 3 beads. They don't want to stay underneath the cord as easily as the 4mm bead, so you just gotta kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that they stay underneath there. Again, tuck it all the way in. Then I'm going to turn my disc for the next pair, like this, and chances are that when we now do the next thing, so again I'm going to take my top left one, release a bead, which in this case again is a 4mm one. When I do this, chances are that maybe the top bead out of those 3 11/0s we just dropped down is going to pop out, just like that. Mine just did that. What I'm going to do is continue, bring that cord down, and before I move on to the next one we just need to fix that. So this is what we need to be aware of throughout, because we want to make sure that all the beads end on the outside of the braid, because if you just let it be like this and continue, some of these 11/0s are going to end up on the inside and you won't get a fully complete pattern at the end. What I'm going to do is release the other one here at the top, because those are the ones, it's that cord that these beads are kind of need to be trapped underneath. So you just spend a bit of time, make sure you push the beads down and bring this cord up just above them so the cord traps the beads in place. And like I said, the very first one here can be a little bit tricky. You can also help using maybe a pair of tweezers or chain nose pliers, so you can get right in there, and you might even have to go back to it again like that. Now all the beads there are trapped underneath that cord. Then I need to take my bottom right one, because this is the pair that we're doing now. Again, release the first beads, which again in this case are the 3 11/0s. Drop them all the way down, and then gradually it's going to start getting a bit easier, because the beginning here we're starting out, there isn't really any spacing for the beads, but now that we're getting further into the braid after we start out here, there's going to be more spacing naturally from the 4mm beads to give way for the 3 11/0 beads as well. Drop that in, turn your disc around for the next pair, and like I said, it doesn't matter what direction you turn your disc. Then I'm going to take my top left one again, which is again is a 4mm bead here. Release the cord, drop the bead down. That's going to slot down underneath that cord that's crossing over there, and also in between the groups of the 11/0s. Bring this across. Again, every time you're moving your beads, make sure to keep an eye on those 11/0s especially. Obviously all the beads, but especially the 11/0s, because those are the ones that have the most tendency to want to pop out and then end up in the middle of the braid. And you don't want to obviously make the whole braid and then find out further down towards the beginning or something, further down the braid, that some beads have popped out that you didn't notice, because then we'll obviously have to undo the whole thing. So to try and avoid that, try and keep an eye on it throughout when you're making the braid, like that. and then you basically just want to continue like this. So I'm now going to take my top left one again, which is again going to be a 4mm bead. You can see there. And then the next one down here is again 3 of the 11-0s, and you basically just continue like this throughout, keeping an eye on those 11-0s especially so they don't pop into the middle. So I thought I would just show you again just a little bit more up close here so you can see what I mean. In the middle there, like I said, release my next cord, the top left one, and then also at the same time drop down my next bead, which is the 4mm bead. You can see there, went under by itself. It's fine. If it doesn't, just make sure to tuck it in with your fingers. That slots under that cord and in between the sections with the 11-0s. And then you can see here the last 11-0 that I brought over is sitting there. That's the one, especially the latest one, you have to keep an eye on, because as you're moving the other cords, that can have a tendency to want to pop out a little bit, or the top bead can maybe want to pop out. So as you're moving these, keep an eye, and if it does pop out, fix it now while you're here by, like I said, releasing this cord up here and then slotting it back into place, kind of trapping the bead in place. Bring this down, let the beads drop all the way down underneath that cord, and then bring the cord over. And again you can see this cord, these beads now slot underneath that cord and it traps it in place, but as we're moving the others, you can make it pop out. So just keep going like this, drop in the next bead, which is a 4mm. There we go, and so far it's going alright. The bottom right one, and pop in. Make sure to push them all the way down so all 3 beads there of the 11-0s get tucked underneath the cord going out to the side. So you just keep going like this, and then you'll start to see the braid forming underneath on the back side of the disc. And then, like I said, remember to keep an eye on these beads throughout. So now that I've kept going here, used up all my beads and all the lengths of cord, then what we need to do is just finish off the braid as well, just like we have the other end, a little section of just braid with the cord. So all you're going to do is continue the braid the exact same way, just without adding in any more beads. And then what's going to happen is your braid is going to naturally singe in at the top there. And again, just make sure the very last one can be a bit tricky to keep in place, that 11-0 seed bead. So just make sure that that stays on the outside of the braid. And then again, just do this braid with just the cord for another 1 to 2 centimeters, just about the same as the beginning. So now I have that little section of braid as well. What there's left to do is I just want to secure the end off so we can take it off the disc. So what I'm going to do is take cords that are diagonally opposite each other, and I'm not going to start with the last pair that I did. I'm going to start with the one that I was due to take next. So take cords that are diagonally opposite each other here, bring them across the middle of the disc, and then tie a regular overhand knot with the 2 cords. Tighten that all the way down so it sits on the end of the disc there, on the end of the braid, sorry. Take the other 2 from the same pair, bring them across the middle, tie a regular overhand knot, and then go to the other pair, do the exact same thing. Take the cords that are diagonally opposite each other, bring them across the middle, tighten the knot, and then the last 2 across the middle and tie the knot, and then we can take it off the disc without the braid coming undone. And this is also just finished off the end without adding too much bulk to it. So all that's left to do now is finish off the ends really. What I'm going to do is just add a bit of glue to the very end where these cords are coming out from, cut them down, then once you've done that, and I've removed the wire from the other end as well, then we can finish it off with our Kumihimo Findings. Now I've already got a tutorial where I show how to do that as well, so using these little bell-shaped Kumihimo ends, I'm going to use those, so you can have a look at that if you need to. I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. Otherwise, finish the ends off and then I'll show you what it looks like. So I then finished off the braid here. I attached my Kumihimo ends on both ends, and then also my clasp, and I've just chosen to use a lost or claw clasp and extended chain, and then it looks like this. So you get a really nice effect, and obviously you can choose whatever beads you want to use, the colour wise, the colour combination and that, but the actual braid, even though we're making the 8 strand round braid here, what you'll find is because of the bead combination, so the two different sizes here and the way we're positioning them on the braid, you actually end up with this kind of triangle effect to the braid itself. So a braid kind of has these three sides, and that also makes it sit nicely on the wrist as well. So you kind of have a flat side towards your wrist, and then obviously the rest of the pattern pointing outwards, so it sits really nicely and comfortably as well. So this is what it looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on this fairly simple braid, just a combination of some different materials, and then thank you very much for watching. Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make this beaded Kumihimo bracelet using super duos, and this is what it looks like. So we have our braid in the middle there with beads on, and then we add these embellishments to the side using those super duos in the braid. So it looks like this all the way around, and I just use these bicones here, gives a really nice sparkle to the piece, and I really like the contrast between the matte and the sparkly beads. But that's obviously completely up to you. So this is the bracelet.